Salerno in 2026 is finally getting a name for itself, and I honestly couldn't be happier. Salerno has topped Skyscanner's trending destinations list for 2026, and honestly, I'm thrilled. Do you know why? Because I have been telling you about the beauty of Salerno on this very channel since 2021. I was ahead of my time. I used to talk about Salerno back when people didn't really know where it was, and I used to always have to reference the Amalfi Coast or Napoli for people to understand where I was exactly based in Italy. But now Salerno is coming into its own, and I'm so thrilled by this because I have been telling you for such a long time just how authentically beautiful this city is and why I've never understood how it's so overlooked compared to its more glitzy glam neighbours. But in today's video, updated for 2026, I'm sharing with you the reasons why you should visit Salerno or even consider moving here, because these reasons really do overlap. And also the reasons why you shouldn't, because I don't think Salerno is for everybody, which is why I don't think that having this accolade of being Skyscanner's top trending destination of 2026 is going to necessarily mean that Salerno becomes the next Amalfi, because there's a few things you've got to remember. There are stark differences between Salerno and the Amalfi Coast, which we'll be talking about in this video. But also, I think you need to remember that Salerno does have tourism. We are noticing it in this city and in this province in terms of the fact that price of accommodation has shot up massively in recent years. This is the reason we don't live in the city anymore, for example. But also I would say there's definitely been an increase in the number of short-term lets and Airbnb properties and bed and breakfasts in general in this time. So you can see that there is a difference in Salerno, but I just don't think it's ever going to be the same as the Amalfi Coast. But let's start with the reasons why you need to come and visit Salerno, whether you're planning to live here or you want to have a short break here. The first reason is, of course, because it is a slice of real Italy. You know, on this channel, I'm all about sharing with you the reality of life in Italy. So naturally, I am drawn to places that represent that for you. Salerno is a real city, okay? This means that you are going to see people going about their everyday lives, going to school, going to work. You know, you're going to experience all of that in Salerno because it is a real city. And I love that. Because if you want to visit Italy and understand this country at its heart and soul, you need to visit places that represent reality. You don't need to visit the playgrounds of Italy, which is really how I consider the Amalfi Coast to be. The Amalfi Coast is a beautiful destination. In fact, I have a photograph of it up here above my head, which I took a few years ago. But I will say to you that it is very much a sense of escapism along the Amalfi Coast. You are not living a normal, authentic Italian life when you visit the Amalfi Coast. You are living like a playground version of it. If you want to really experience what everyday Italians experience, if you want to see a city working the way it does here in the south of Italy, if you want to taste genuine local dishes that are not just prepared for you because you're a tourist, you need to come to Salerno for those reasons. It's the reason that I fell in love with it back in 2018 and have continued to love it ever since. I also think you should visit Salerno because for the most part, you're going to pay reasonable, normal prices for things. Now, I should caveat this a little bit because, as I've said to you, Salerno is not immune to tourism. We have cruise ships that dock in Salerno, you know, on a very frequent basis, and there are plans to extend the port even further to allow larger cruise ships to dock in the future. So it does have its own sense of tourism. It does mean, therefore, that if you are going to eat at some of the restaurants that are popping up along Piazza della Libertà, you may end up paying higher prices for that because they are based exactly where the cruise ships dock. It's natural, okay? This is real life. However, if you venture more into the historical centre and into the heart of Salerno itself, that's when prices become normal again, and they are the places that the locals tend to frequent. It's all about knowing where to go in Salerno. This is key. And I clocked onto this a couple of years ago when I created my insider travel guide to Salerno. This is a very special guide because it's not a one-time offer and you have it and sometimes some of the places close down and the information is out of date. I literally update this guide every single year, and it's due an update in the coming months for 2026, but it was updated the latter part of last year. So it's constantly up to date with where to go, what to do, and just life as an insider, local person, so that you can really discover where to go and not just get attracted to the tourist traps and destinations. If you want to check out this travel guide, I'll link it up here and also below in the show notes. But I did that because I'm really, really passionate about people coming to Salerno and experiencing it like a local and not experiencing a version of Salerno that is only really for tourists. So it's really, really important to me that you get to see the heart and soul of it. And that means that you don't pay nearly 20 euros for a spritz like you would along the Amalfi Coast. So for cost of living and also for paying for things like eating out and aperitivos and things like this, I would definitely say that Salerno is so much better for this than its neighbouring towns, I would suggest. Another amazing reason to visit Salerno is for its historical centre. Centro Storico, this is such a beautiful part of Salerno. You've got like the narrow pathways and streets. You can find really, really beautiful boutiques and independent businesses tucked along them, restaurants. You can go exploring. We have like a little art display tucked away in the heart of the historical centre as well. So it's just a really, really beautiful place. And I think it's so charming to go exploring along there, especially on a quiet Sunday morning as well, when there's not many people around. It can be really, really special. I like the historical centre. I don't think it's somewhere that I would ever recommend to live in personally. So if you're watching this and you're kind of considering Salerno as a place to move to, I wouldn't necessarily recommend the historical centre. I know people who live there and they're very happy. But for me personally, I think the historical centre is a nightmare for parking because you would have to pay for parking or you would have to buy a box, shall we say, or rent a box, which is like a garage basically where you can leave your car. Also, coupled in with that, in the summer, people tend to live outdoors. So what you'll find is, depending on where you are in the historical centre, it might get quite noisy at night. And if you have to work and you're not on holiday, like a lot of Italians are at that time, it could be a little bit problematic. But not only that, a lot of properties in the historical centre are very old, which means that they need a lot more maintenance, and maybe some of the kind of essential services may not operate as well within them. So you have to do a lot of refurbishment, I think, with some of those properties. Balconies as well are quite small too in the historical centre, which is quite normal for these kinds of places. So it's not really a place that I would necessarily recommend to live in, but it's certainly a great place to stay in if you're planning to come here, because everything is kind of at your fingertips. It's on your doorstep. You can go wherever you want very, very easily. The Duomo is situated in the historical centre as well, and that's super, super beautiful to visit. So I would say for this, it's very nice to explore the historical centre. I would also suggest that if you are planning to visit Salerno in particular, I wouldn't stay in any of the neighbourhoods too far south out of the centre. Now, this has changed a little bit because I did a video, and I'll link it up here, of some of the neighbourhoods that I would recommend that you stay in. My decision still remains the same in the sense that the historical centre, Carmine and Erno are like three places that I would recommend that you stay in if you are visiting Salerno. Carmine and Erno are two neighbourhoods that I used to live in, so I know them very well, and I know that they are fairly safe neighbourhoods, and they also represent real Italy as well. So you're going to be staying where the locals live. I did used to mention Pastena. Pastena is a little bit further south out of the centre, within walking distance from the centre, absolutely. It's going through a bit of a change at the moment. It's not really as it once was. So it's not really a place that I would recommend anymore, and the same with Torrione as well. Like, those places are good to experience, like to go and have a look at the shops there and to look at the beach there, because there is a longer stretch of beach along that area, but it's no longer a place that I would really, really recommend to kind of live in or kind of stay in either. So that's changed a little bit, I would say, for 2026, just because there are a few more problems in those areas now relating to crime and antisocial behaviour. So it's just something to consider. On that note, as we are talking about other places not to stay, I would also not recommend staying anywhere near the train station in Salerno. This is pretty much the same for any of the large train stations in many Italian cities. I would say it's the same for Napoli and also for Palermo. The areas around the train station are not usually the best. In Salerno, there is actually a hotel that's situated right next to it, but I just would never recommend anyone to stay there. Not only because now there's a McDonald's that has opened pretty much right in front of that hotel, but also because sometimes those places are like magnets for homelessness, crime, drug addicts, things like this, right? So you've just got to pay attention to it. The train station locations are definitely not somewhere that I would recommend to stay. Another great reason to visit Salerno, you're by the sea. Now, we've got to set some expectations here because the sea is beautiful. I come from London. The River Thames is usually varying shades of grey. So to look at the sea in Salerno, I was super excited the first time I saw it. The problem I have, though, is that then I went to Sicily. And once you've experienced the sea in Sicily, nothing else quite compares in Italy. And I think that was my downfall. But in terms of having the sea in Salerno, it makes such a difference. It's beautiful. You can hear the seagulls. You can go for lovely walks along the Lungomare. It's just a really, really beautiful place for that reason. And the sunsets, I've taken some of the most glorious photographs of the sunsets in Salerno, like absolutely beautiful, looking at the sun setting across the sea, incredible. And you can also go to some beachside bars in the summer months as well, which are really, really lovely too. So I think having the sea is a huge bonus, and it really does make a difference to your experience staying somewhere and also living somewhere where you've got the sea on your doorstep. Another great reason to visit Salerno is for its seasonal events. So throughout the year, you will find different events that take place, from medieval festivals through to flower festivals, literature festivals. And then, of course, in the winter months, we have Luci di Artista, which is the famous light show that takes place here in Salerno. And it is amazing, absolutely amazing to come and experience. This year's one, or I should say last year's one, but into this year, because it only finished in February, was perhaps not as great as previous years. And a lot of people have complained about it because it was hit with lots of technical faults. But I will say to you, it was beautiful nevertheless. There were certain parts that absolutely blew me away. But that is a really, really famous light show, and it attracts Italian tourists and international tourists alike every single year. So there is just so much to do in Salerno. And I think for this reason, it is a destination in and of itself. But also, in addition to, not as the main reason for visiting, I think in a way it annoys me sometimes when people say, Salerno is the perfect gateway to the Amalfi Coast. Yes, it is, but when you speak like that, you're kind of implying that there's not much else going on in Salerno, so you need to escape it. I'm telling you now that you can experience a lot of things in Salerno. There are lots of wonderful places for you to explore. You can see some videos up here in my playlist for Salerno. I document some of the things that you can do in the city. And of course, in my travel guide as well, I list them there too. But aside from that, if you want to travel out, it is a great base. And I actually prefer it to the Amalfi Coast because you have options. You have a train station that services pretty much all of Italy, and you've got boats, buses, and also an airport as well, which is a little bit further out in Ponte Conagno, but it's there. It's part of the Salerno province. So it's amazing that you have all of these options, which means that once you're done exploring Salerno, which can take a couple of days at least, I would say, if you have a look around properly, you then have options and you can explore other parts of Italy from Salerno. If you stay along the Amalfi Coast, you're pretty much stuck along the Amalfi Coast because apart from Vietri Solmare, there are no other train stations along the Amalfi Coast, and you are subject to your own transport like moped or car or a bus or a boat. And, I would say to you, if you don't have experience of driving in Italy, if you are a little bit of a nervous driver, because the Italians drive with passion, to put it lightly, I wouldn't recommend hiring a moped or a motorbike or, a car and driving along the Amalfi Coast. I remember a few months ago now, we were in Vietri and there were a couple of tourists that had hired out some mopeds from this place that they have in Vietri, and they drove out of this place, but they were wibbly wobbly all over the place. And I remember all the locals were gathered on the street, kind of tutting and talking amongst themselves, watching what was going on, because Italians love to watch and kind of see what's happening around them. And then the next thing the owner of this place is dashing out of their office on their moped, chasing them down the road, and then later bringing them back because, of course, they were going to head along the Amalfi Coast like that. there would have been some very serious repercussions. So I think that, unless you're really, really confident at driving, just don't even think about it. Like, it's better to consider the bus or the boat. But you are a little bit more limited. I think if you go to the Amalfi Coast, you tend to stay along the Amalfi Coast. It's not really as easy to navigate other parts of Italy from there. But in Salerno, you have options. And that, my friend, is a very, very beautiful thing indeed. Now, let's move into the reasons why you shouldn't come to Salerno, either to live or to visit, because this is the reason why I don't think that even though Salerno has topped this trending destinations list of 2026, it's necessarily going to turn it into the next Amalfi, because Salerno isn't perfect, right? If you want perfection, you will not come to Salerno, because Salerno is a real city. I've always said it. In fact, I speak about it in this video as well, if you want to dive a bit deeper into the topic, that the Amalfi Coast is like a playground of Italy. It's a bubble. It's not reality. The average Italian person does not spend nearly 20 euros on a spritz. The average Italian person doesn't live the way that people do along the Amalfi Coast. And that is something that you need to remember. I think that in Salerno, because it is a real city, you are going to see everything about a real city, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You're going to see graffiti on the walls. You're going to see the odd broken window here or there. You might see a bit of antisocial behaviour. But then you're also going to see incredible beauty and incredible heart and soul that, in my opinion, is lacking along the Amalfi Coast, because it is a front for the tourists. I don't want to bash the Amalfi Coast, because it is an exceptionally beautiful place and I love to go there as well. But I don't go there as often as I should, considering it's not a million miles away from where I live. For this reason, because I find that there's not much to do there. Like, once you've seen the beach, which, by the way, the beaches on the Amalfi Coast are not great. I know you have the influencers that stand there and they're posing and they make them look amazing, but they're really not. They're small and the sand is black. This is not the Caribbean along the Amalfi Coast, but the water is nice and, the backdrop is exceptional, absolutely, depending on where you are. But I just think that it's not reality. And so if you want to have a perfect holiday, you by no means will go to Salerno, because, as I've said, it has soul. It has character. It's a bit rough around the edges at points, but it's real and it will embrace you and welcome you into that city. The Amalfi Coast will give you a polite chin-chin, shall we say, but then also take all the money that you have when you're there, because everything is so damn expensive along the Amalfi Coast. There, I've said it. Now, the next reason why you might not want to visit or move to Salerno is if you are looking for a beach holiday, or you're looking for a beautiful beach at that. You have Santa Teresa, which is the city beach in Salerno, and then further along as you go into Torrione and Pastana, you have larger stretches of beach. But I'm going to be honest with you, the water is what really lets Salerno down. Because you're so close to the port, the quality of the water can vary. It can fluctuate at different times of the year. You're not going to have those azure blue seas that you might have seen on Instagram with a bit of editing. The water here can fluctuate a lot. So it's not really a beach holiday destination. You will want to travel out a little bit if you want to experience better quality water and better beaches. Definitely further south, Cilento Coast is preferable for many people. Even Paestum, which isn't a million miles away, has better beaches and sea quality than Salerno a lot of the time. So if you're after a beach holiday destination, I don't even think you should be thinking about the Amalfi either, to be fair, but you probably will not be considering Salerno for this reason. And the final reason I would say, because there are only 3 reasons why I think you shouldn't consider Salerno, is if you want a lively nightlife. Salerno is not really known for its movida or nightlife, because it's a quiet city. So you have restaurants, you have bars, you have a nice vibe of an evening, but it's not as lively as, say, Napoli or Palermo or any of the other larger southern Italian cities at night. I would say in the summer, you have a bit more going on, because people tend to live outdoors in those months. And so people will sit out in the piazzas and they'll be staying out a lot later of an evening as well. But it's different. After a while, if you stay in Salerno long enough, things start to become a little bit mundane and repetitive, and you find that you want to go out and explore neighbouring towns and cities in order to experience a different kind of nightlife. So if the nightlife side of things is important to you, you might not consider Salerno, especially if you don't want to travel out and have a different kind of experience. I would say though, overall, Salerno is amazing. And as you can probably tell from my energy in this video, it's a place I absolutely love. Definitely somewhere I think you should visit. Definitely somewhere I think you should experience, but it's not somewhere that I think you should consider as just your base and that's it. Consider it as a destination in and of itself in the same way that Skyscanner has for 2026. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at just how much you can gain from this city without ever having to leave its boundaries. I will see you in the next video.